Hello and welcome to Second Edition.
Today we look at some STEAM scams going around.
And as well as what NAIT spring training is going to look like for this off-season of athletes.
And later we'll take a look at some fun things to do this spring.
But first, we take a look at the vaccine rollout at the Expo Centre.
There is a new hub for vaccine rollout. Having opened last Monday, the Edmonton Expo Centre became the 8th immunization site in Alberta. The Expo Centre has 154 vaccination stations and the capacity to administer over 7,000 immunizations a day. This leaves room enough for people outside of Edmonton to get a spot too.
Well, I got it here because it was the first appointment that I could make. We're originally from Sherwood Park. There were no spots at Sherwood Park, so we came here.
If you think you qualify, you can book an appointment between 7:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. on the Alberta Health Services COVID-19 website or call HealthLink at 811.
Steam is one of the largest online video game distribution platforms and has recently been having a large amount of account scams being committed. And since this pandemic has started, these reports have only increased. Since late 2018, Steam users across the web have been getting contacted saying that they could possibly lose their account due to a false account report claim made to them. However, if they were to contact a quote Steam support person in order to appeal the claim, they could save their account.
Since we've been online for the pandemic, since COVID has pushed us all into our homes, the online scams have increased over 350% of what they were just prior to that.
Former victims would like to help prevent any future scams from possibly happening to others by suggesting account security implementations such as choosing passwords carefully, not using the same password for different sites, long and complex passwords over short and memorable ones, and using two-factor authentication.
Keep your wits about you. Just be suspicious of random strangers on the internet.
NAIT's Biological Sciences Club fundraiser has generated a lot of buzz this year. Where the club usually hosts fundraisers to raise money for conference tickets, certification, and graduation events, this time they decided to try something different, making and selling bee hotels. The hotels are made for North American native solitary bees who don't make their own hives. The hotel provides a safe place for mothers to lay their eggs before the winter. The hotels sold for $35 each and were sold out in 24 hours. The president of the club gave some tips on how to protect the bees in your area this summer.
Of course, not swatting bees. A lot of times they're actually pretty peaceful. They're just checking you out. A lot for these solitary bees, they're trying to pollinate local species of plants that are native to the area. So instead of maybe planting your annual, perennials, you could instead look for more native species of plants that look just as good, if not, in my opinion, a little better.
The club has plans in discussion to do a similar fundraiser next year.
West Edmonton Mall has opened up the first indoor multi-level go-kart racetrack course in North America. Drive at West Edmonton Mall contains state-of-the-art electric SOTY race carts, letting you race around a New York-themed streetscape. Drive currently, however, is only open for private events, and with the safety guidelines of COVID-19 being a top priority for both guests and employees.
Hopefully the track opens for all soon.
Exactly. And as the university school year is coming to a close with no collegiate sports in our country, athletes are hoping to still get into the gym on the off-season, but there's no guarantee.
And an Alberta wheelchair racer has found her home on the track. Our Caitlin Pobersnick joins us live in the studio with more.
Thanks, guys. COVID continues to alter the way athletes are connected to their sport, and with restrictions constantly changing, NAIT athletes are having a hard time knowing what training will look like come the end of the semester.
Slid with you down, you start to go back up, they recovering, then you spin on them, get back to the inside.
After only being back in the gym for a month, NAIT teams are having to put a hold on their training once again due to the Phase 1 recall of COVID restrictions. And with classes almost being finished, off-season training is now being talked about. The type of training that will be taking place is put into question, and athletes will not be able to compete within their own teams until they get the green light.
It's student athlete safety, right? So we're not going to go above and beyond. We're not even going to put anybody else at risk and go outside of the standards for sure.
NAIT Athletics has their fingers crossed to get teams back together sooner rather than later, but with nothing being too certain right now, teams might have to stick with virtual workouts safely from their homes. Wheelchair racing has 19-year-old Leduc native Brittany Volkman finding her passion. She was born with spina bifida, a condition that forced her spine to grow outside her body. She never thought she'd find her place in the world of sports. Go! Her brother introduced her to racing, knowing she'd be able to bring a banner home for their school, New Sarepta Community High School. Wheelchair sports might not be as popular on the east side of Canada, but Volkman continues to take the fast lane in hopes of making wheelchair racing more popular.
Awesome if there was more people involved in it, because like with wheelchair racing, there isn't very many people like in this part of Canada. It's more eastern Canada, so I'm usually the only one in my race.
Volkman aims to race as much as possible and head off to nationals once it is safe to do so. She is quite an incredible girl, and to find such a passion when she never thought she'd be able to play sports is just incredible.
Such an inspiring story.
No kidding. And who knows, maybe it'll be fun to see where she ends up once this is all back to normal.
No kidding.
Spring is here, the windiest season where the snow starts to melt and it begins to freeze.
And for more facts about the spring equinox, here's our Christine Peters.
Hi guys. Today I'm talking with Josh Clausen to see why equinox always changes and why spring is the windiest season.
Great to have you.
Thanks, Christine. It's great to be here.
All right, so thinking about equinox, why does everyone always assume it's right on the 21st when it's not?
Yeah, it changes. Actually, last year was the earliest it had been in a long, long time. It was on the 19th last year. This year, as it worked out, it was early in the morning of the 21st. And that just has to do with the fact that our Earth's orbit isn't a perfect 365 days, right? So
why do you think the temperature in spring always kind of roller coasters above and below freezing?
We're dealing with, in spring and fall, we call our shoulder seasons, right? In the wintertime, you're usually stuck in a cool air mass. In the summertime, you're stuck in a generally warmer air mass. And in the springtime, those two are kind of fighting for position. And so if you look at the jet stream is usually a lot more loopy and wavy as we head through the springtime. You'll get these outbreaks of cold air and then warm air right beside it trying to push up. And so depending on what side of that jet stream you're on, you're either into the cold, lingering, wintry air, or the more summery air.
How windy does it usually get on average?
On average, in April and May, you have an average wind speed of 14 kilometers per hour. Now, that doesn't seem all that strong, but what it means is that you have more windy days in those 2 months than you do in all the 10 other months.
Thanks for all this interesting advice.
I'm Christine Peters, 2nd Edition News.
And with the weather so nice this spring, you might be looking for a safe hobby to pass the time.
That's right, our very own Robert Bradley sits down with a wildlife ecologist to get us some tips on bird watching.
Thanks, guys. So with spring sort of in our midst right now, lots of people are looking for different ways to get outside and be active. I sit down with wildlife ecologist Josh Billick to give us all the inside information he knows about starting up the new hobby of bird watching.
What sort of started you onto this path?
I grew up camping and fishing in northern Alberta and just took a kin and love to nature.
What are some tips you would give to someone who wants to start bird watching?
You know, you could put up a feeder in your backyard. It's a really, really easy and financially achievable goal, because after that, it starts to get very expensive when you start buying optics and bird books and traveling. So, you know, if you want to start slow and start easy, get yourself a bird feeder, maybe put up a bird box.
Do you know any good places in the city to go bird watching?
You know, we're kind of really fortunate and kind of blessed here in Edmonton. The Edmonton River Valley is the largest connective green space per urban size in North America and top ranking in the world. So if you want to find some place to go, literally just go down to the valley. There's 1,000 networks of trails and parks. There are bird feeders set up all over the place down there. And the nice thing is it's a great corridor for wildlife. So you'll not only see birds, but you'll see deer and coyotes and a whole variety of other things.
How physically demanding does it tend to be?
You know, it's as demanding as you wanted to make it. If you want to go on a stroll down through the river valley, pretty easy to do. You want to go and find something unique on top of a mountaintop, that's going to be a little more physically demanding. So it's spectrum, right? And so there's opportunities for everybody. We had people that were 5 years old to 95 years old coming out on bird watching hikes.
Josh, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to answer my questions.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. For second edition, I'm Robert Bradley. Back to you guys.
Patio season is right around the corner for local Edmonton restaurants, but the new restrictions might be making it harder for them to attract any business.
And it begs the question, how will restaurants manage under these new guidelines? Our Lucas Johnson has more.
That's right. Since spring is upon us, patios around the city have begun to open to the public. However, restaurants are now only limited to this option because of the new restrictions in place due to the rise in COVID-19 cases. The restrictions state that all eateries can provide curbside and takeout, but cannot offer in-house service. They can offer a sit-down option for customers if they have a patio or outdoor dining feature. I spoke with Brandon Upright, manager of Rebel Food and Drink on the west end of Edmonton, to share his thoughts as someone directly affected. When will your patio season begin?
Well, because of the new restrictions we've had to work with, I guess it's kind of already begun.
Okay.
But normally with our outdoor patio, it usually start around the start of May to mid-May.
What challenges do you think you'll face with the new restrictions in place, if any?
Well, to start, I mean, because of the social distancing of tables and everything we've had to do, our patio has lost about 4 or 5 tables alone. So, you know, we're down the number of people that we can fit on our patio, which in turn obviously is less business.
And do you think that the new restrictions will make patio dining more popular for your restaurant, or will curbside and takeout be the more likely option for you guys?
Well, I think it really all depends on what the government chooses to do with their regulations. You know, since when was it? As of Friday, we've had to do, you know, just the patio service or takeout thing. We're not allowed to do dine-in. So our patio has still been popular for the last 3 days. We're lucky that for the winter, we actually covered our patio. So we have a roof over it, a temporary roof and walls, which allows it to stay semi-heated. So it's been popular the last 3 days, which is nice.
So even though patio season is here, it comes with a bittersweet introduction, as that is the only dine-in option that they are allowed to offer. I've been Lucas Johnson, second edition.
Definitely going to be checking out some of those patios.
I will be as well. After the break, we'll take a look at how to change a tire and some easy spring meals.
And Stephanie will show us some springtime fun that you can have without spending a dime. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back to second edition.
Next, we'll take a look at fun free things to do this spring and some easy spring meal ideas.
But first, Nathan Carlson and his dad are going to teach us how to change a tire.
Thanks guys. With spring in the air, it's time to get off those winter tires and put on your spring tires. Let's get at her. The tools you'll need for swapping your winter tires over to your summer tires are a floor jack, a cordless impact gun, a torque wrench, and some anti-seize compound. Once you have gathered all of the required tools, the first step will be to loosen the lug nuts with the torque wrench. This will make it easier to get the lug nuts off when using the cordless impact gun. Once the nuts are loosened, you can go ahead and jack up your car until you see that the tire is off the ground. Now that the tire is in the air, grab your impact gun and take the lug nuts off. After the nuts are removed, you can simply pull the wheel off the car and roll it to storage, hoping that you won't need that winter tire again so soon. The next step is to put some anti-seize compound on the wheel studs and the wheel hub. This helps with the installation of the lug nuts and also prevents the wheel rim from seizing onto the wheel hub. Next is to mount the new summer wheel. Make sure to align this wheel properly with the studs so the wheel goes on nice and easy. Once you have your summer wheel nice and tight against the wheel hub, grab a lug nut and tighten it onto the wheel stud by hand. After you hand install the lug nut, grab your impact gun and secure the lug nut onto the wheel stud. You can now install all the other lug nuts without the wheel moving around. Once all the lug nuts are on and securely fastened with the impact gun, go ahead and lower your car back onto the ground. The last step in the swap out process is to torque the lug nuts on to make sure they are tight. Well, now you've seen the basic step-by-step procedure of changing a tire. From 2nd Edition, I'm Nathan Carlson.
Thanks guys. Today we're going to be making the easiest spring meal you can. So, first you're going to want to grab your ribs. They're bought at Costco. They say 10 minutes on the box, but the process usually takes about 45 minutes. Next, you're going to be the minute rice. That one is true. That does take a minute. Next, you're going to want some vegetables for balance, of course. You're going to need some utensils for the barbecue. You're going to need some tin foil to put on top of your container before it goes into the barbecue. Next, you're going to need some water in a pot, and you're going to fill that up with, I'd say cold water, warm water, doesn't really matter. That's where your rice is going to go. Now that you got that all settled, you're going to want to put your broccoli and your rice on the stovetop on about medium heat so that you can monitor it between the barbecue and this. Next, you're going to want to put your tin foil over top of your baking sheet. Then you're going to grab your ribs, get them out of the package of course, put them on top of the tin foil. Make sure they're nice and secure. You're going to take that and you're going to move it onto your barbecue. This may take a minute. I'm a slow walker. I'm sorry. Out we go. You can put the ribs on any of the burners just as long as they're evened out. You're going to want to turn on your barbecue. Shut the lid. And now we wait. This process took about 45 minutes total, so you're going to be sitting here for a while. I'm no pro, so it may have taken me longer, but they're done. That's what they should look like. Next, you're going to want to go check on your rice and your broccoli, and they seem to be done as well. Now we get some action shots of our plate. You can design it however you want. This is how I decided to do it. Thanks guys. This has been a pleasure. Hope you enjoy. This has been Nicholas Egan, 2nd Edition.
Now, the semester is almost over, which means we're gonna have so much more free time. But does that mean that we're gonna have to spend a bunch of money to have fun? I don't think so. So today, I'm gonna run you through some things to do in Edmonton this spring that are fun and cheap or free. Because everyone knows that free is the best price.
Our first stop today is the Arts District. Now it is a little bit crazy with a lot of construction going on right now, but hopefully that won't get in the way of Arts District animation. So starting on April 8th, there will be 3 distinct multidisciplinary art shows going on at the Citadel, at the Windspear, and at the Art Gallery of Alberta. Because of all of the construction, it can be really hard to find parking in this part of town, but luckily this area is right by Churchill Station, so if you can take transit, that'd be ideal. So our next stop is at 104th Street and Jasper Ave. And right now, this just looks like a regular downtown street, but starting on the weekends from June 5th, it's going to be transformed into alfresco summer series. Now, this is such a fun event. There's extended patios, there's little campfires, there's food specials, there's retail vendors. It is so fun. Okay, so this next activity I am so excited. I'm so obsessed with this. All along Edmonton's River Valley, there's this thing called the Commonwealth Walkway, and it's marked with these medallions. There's an app that uses your location to connect you to stories. So for example, it shows me the medallion that I'm at. And look, I can choose from a river story, history story, and a winter story. You get to listen to the story while you're there. It's so cool. And the thing is that they have these stories all along the 10-kilometer long Commonwealth Walkway.
And last but not least, another walking tour. The city of Edmonton has hundreds of walking paths through almost every neighborhood in Edmonton. You download the pamphlet to go along with it and just take a walk, and you learn something new about your community while getting some exercise, and it's all for free.
Whew, that was a lot of fun. I hope that this video gave you some ideas for some fun and free things that you can do over the next few months in Edmonton. For Second Edition News, I'm Stephanie Swensrud.
And with that, this has been Team A's last show of the year.
Be sure to tune in next week for Team B's last show.
See you next time.
Bye.